to Atypical Talk. This is a podcast where we have conversations that illuminate the intersection of faith, culture, and the common spaces of our humanity. I'm Abby.
I'm Joel.
I'm Kenton.
So our first question today is, what's the weirdest thing you believed as a kid? I was talking to someone about this the other day, and I thought, let's talk about it on the podcast. What about you, Kenton?
Well, I have a couple, but I asked my wife of the several things that I thought were weird, what was the strangest?
Yeah.
And I thought that the hair on your head grew from the end and not from like the scalp for far longer than I'd like to admit.
I just learned something right now. I'm just kidding.
Oh, wow. Yeah, I thought like the newest hair was at the end. I don't know why, because I knew about like what dead ends were and all that kind of stuff. But like, yeah, that I don't know if it's like strange or if I'm just DUMB, but yeah, long time. I was in high school before I learned that it wasn't true. So
well, I've heard about adults recently that have learned that, so it's probably not as weird as you think.
All right, well,
yeah.
On that note, I remember I was way too old when I stopped having a fear of eating watermelon seeds.
Oh, because they would grow a watermelon in your stomach.
Exactly, Abby.
Yeah.
And when I was a sophomore in college and I discovered, no, I'm just kidding. I just remember being like, I have been carefully, meticulously never having the black seeds around when I'm eating watermelon for way too long. Right?
But you eat a strawberry, which is literally like
all
covered
seeds.
in yeah.
Makes no sense, but it was there. For me, I was just thinking recently, because my 6-year-old is going to this day camp, but I remember having these really vivid, terrifying memories of being in this, the Wildcat Creek and being on a canoe at this day camp, and the counselor at the time, who's just a cruel person the older I get, I think about it, he would literally like be hitting the side of the canoe with his oar where we couldn't see, and he said, oh, there's an alligator here that eats kids that don't listen. Cool. And I was like, I look back and I'm like, dude, I think I was 6 or 7, and I was terrified of that. Like I was like death gripping the side of this canoe, thinking like, this is how I'm gonna die if I don't. So I believe that there were a lot of alligators in Kokomo, Indiana, and they were gonna get me if I didn't listen specifically.
There are.
Listen, So now,
Jack, if you're listening,
no, don't do that. He doesn't need that fear.
Yes. You mentioned the watermelon thing, and it reminded me when I was younger, I'd go fishing with my grandparents on their pontoon, and we'd always eat cherries, the ones that had the seed in the middle.
Yeah.
And my grandpa would tell me, like, when we would spit the cherry seeds into the lake, that we'd see cherry trees in a few years.
Underwater? Those underwater cherries?
And so I kept going back every summer. I'm like, where are these trees at? They're not here yet,
The trees are
Grandpa.
coming someday.
Yeah.
Oh, that's amazing.
I also believed in Bigfoot.
Like, you were like an apologist for Bigfoot.
But it wasn't even, it was like
I still do.
fear. It was like fear of Bigfoot. Like he was
That's
outside my window at night. And it's all because I think one time I turned on the TV and it was on like the History Channel or, Discovery or something like that when I was young. And they had, one of those like
Monster
Bigfoot
Quest
Chaser, Monster Quest, whatever. And it seemed real to me. Like I thought I was watching the news.
Documentary, like a news thing. Yeah,
like whatever news channel.
Yeah.
And so I was so scared forever of Bigfoot.
Yeah. But my actual answer, so me and my siblings are all named after people from the Bible. And so I believed when I was really young that if you did not name your children after people from the Bible, you were not a Christian. And so I had so many friends. I'm like, okay, you go to church and stuff, but
you don't really know the Lord.
No.
Is your name.
Your name's Jeff.
What a cruel thing if that was true for parents to do, basically. You get one Matthew and you get one, like, Steve.
Yeah.
There's a Steven, but not Steve. But I'm just saying, like, it's like...
Yeah, no one ever told me that. I just believed it.
Yeah.
Yep, but that was my weird thing.
Wow.
You live and you learn.
Yep.
You live and you learn.
So our first article today, it's a Christianity Today article titled, Sean Feucht accused of mismanaging millions in ministry revenue. Sean Feucht has been a prominent figure in conservative politics and the charismatic Christian movement. He unsuccessfully ran for Congress as a Republican in California in 2020 and has been leading worship protests across the country. However, a group of former employees have come forward with allegations of financial mismanagement and lack of accountability within Feucht's various ministries, including Sean Feucht Ministries, Burn 24/7, and Light a Candle. The whistleblowers claim that Feucht has underpaid staff, overstated attendance at his events, diverted donations, and failed to properly disclose spending. Feucht has not publicly responded to these allegations, and his ministries have not released detailed financial reports since petitioning the IRS to be classified as churches. The former employees report highlights the rapid growth of Feucht's ministry revenue from $283,526 in 2019 to $5.3 million in 2020, raising concerns about the lack of transparency and accountability. The report also documents Feucht's personal real estate holdings and the significant assets held by his tax-exempt ministries, further fueling questions about the use of ministry funds. What was your reaction to hearing about this?
Oh, thanks, guys.
It's all turned
Let's
to
look at
Kenton.
the finance guy.
Yeah, the finance and worship guy.
I mean, I have lots of thoughts on this topic, and we could talk about it for the next hour or a long time. But first, I'll just say that, I think transparency is something that I don't know that maybe we're collectively lacking in the world sometimes, and just, taking that a step further, but just blatant honesty. And I think things like this shine a bad light. I think sometimes people may think that maybe the government holds these organizations to a higher standard, or that there's some kind of overwatch or something like that they can just naturally be trusted because, they operate under the name of a religion, or specifically, the name of Jesus. But the reality is, we have to do our due diligence, to make sure that these kinds of things are what they say that they are. And a lot of times when you have Sean in particular, using his notoriety, his fame in air quotes, famous within the Christian sphere of things. Sometimes when you have a figurehead like that, you need to dig a little deeper. So yeah, somebody else can step in before I continue.
It's one of these situations where for me it was like, oh, I'm not surprised at all. Like just the way that Feucht sort of held platform and the way that he cozied up with political partisan power, the way that he held these worship protests in the height of the pandemic that were just so in your face. Don't tell us what to do. We're going to gather and worship the way that we want to the way that he's, cozied up with politicians, run for political power. Like the through line in all of this is power, and like this kind of like needing to be in the middle of the spotlight and gain for himself. And I think that's where there's smoke, there's fire all the way through. As you see somebody who is taking a really tragic, disruptive moment like COVID, and here's someone who's benefiting from it. You see presidential power that he can cozy up to so that he can have some political move in the direction where he can have power. Of course, because there's something to gain from this, to see really his organizations not having any accountability and financial oversight at all, to where he's making money hand over fist, and this growth is just tragic. But it's also like, yeah, this is where there's smoke, there's fire, and where people are running for spotlight, influence, power. These things are usually not far behind. And so, yeah, to Kenton's point, this is what's tragic, is that people will paint all kinds of ministries because of what you saw here, when there are most churches, most ministries but being dedicated to being honest and transparent and to do the ethical thing, and which is tragic. I mean, churches today, we do not pay taxes. If that would change sometime in the future, it will be because of bozos like this and things like people that are like benefiting from it and gaining more for themselves, not. So, I mean, we could see a time where that does change in the future, because there have been people that have abused power and abused funds. And remember, like, every dollar that we're talking about in this is people free will donating to a nonprofit and ministry. These are people out of their financial house. They are giving to this. And so it's wrong. It's unjust. It's an abuse of power. It's a slander to the name of Jesus in every way, shape, or form. And there will be a lot of damage done from this.
I think outside of even just the financial side of it, standing and proclaiming things in the name of Jesus, it's a very dangerous game. And that was what he did, still does. And just, singing songs and all of this kind of stuff, sometimes, it can be seen as just what it is, just singing and like we're doing this and it's a big yay rah, but as the person leading it, if he's up there being the leader, where his heart is, I think we're seeing was very much, like Joel said, was very self-centered. It was all the self-promotion, and there were things that he was claiming in the name of Jesus. But the financial side of things, if he even was technically a nonprofit or not, that's a whole other thing. But you're in some deep trouble if this comes not only from the people who donated to you or gave to him, but the people that are in the government, like the IRS. They'll come a knocking, and it won't be a good time for him. And it's just really rough.
Yeah, and I think too, like, not just to beat up the guy or just make a point out of this one situation, but I think it's incumbent upon people to trust the leadership of the faith community they're a part of, to trust the ministry and that they're giving resources to, and to be able to ask questions about where money goes, how is it handled, what's allotted for payroll or bonuses and things like that. Like, people think these kind of things all the time, and I think to have transparency is never the wrong thing, and to ask hard ethical questions is never the wrong thing. So I think it's incumbent upon people that are in leadership that do steward resources that people give, but it's also, I think, incumbent upon all of us that give to anything to ask the questions. And if we're not satisfied with the answers, then we should move to something that we feel like we can put our hearts fully behind. And so, it's something that we've got to care about. What is the right thing to do? What's not just the easy thing or the thing that serves me, but what is the right thing to do? And sadly, it looks like those were not questions that were asked here, and they're questions that we should ask ourselves whenever we're handling resources that people have given, or whenever we're trying to do the right thing by other people.
Mm-hmm. Okay, our next topic today is a Today Show article titled "All 443 Graduating Seniors Got a Personal Note from Their Principal at This Texas High School." Jason Mutterer, the principal of Mansfield Summit High School in Texas, went above and beyond for his graduating seniors this year. He wrote 443 personal, heartfelt notes to each student, including a $1 bill in each envelope.
Cheapskate.
That teacher's salary better be $100 each.
Mutterer, known as Coach Mutt, wanted to make sure every student felt seen and appreciated. He was inspired by a similar note he received from a teacher when he was in high school. The students were deeply touched by Mutterer's gesture. They described how he made them all feel seen and loved, and that he knew details about their lives and activities, even for students who weren't star athletes. Mutterer believes that small acts of kindness can have a big impact, and he wanted to encourage his students to pay it forward. The Today Show surprised Mutterer by having the audience write letters thanking him for his inspiration, with one mom saying, "More educators like you are needed in this world." So I just thought this was really sweet. I mean, my hand would hurt. 443 letters.
That's a lot.
What did you guys think of this?
I thought it was beautiful. I thought it was an example of real, authentic servant leadership. Mm-hmm. Here's, the head honcho of a school who's got a staff working for him. He's probably got administrative assistants with the school this size. And to think about him thinking that the most valuable use of his time was to do this real personal act, is leadership that makes waves. It's not about the speech. It's not about the budget projections or beating budget or anything like that. Like, the thing that each one of these students, their families, and now so many people that have read this article or heard this talked about on Today's Show, like, they are going to have a different impact from it. And so I love it as an example of personal leadership and not corporatizing or saying it's too big for this. You know what I mean? I love that. Even I made the joke about the $1 bill, but still that's like over $440, right?
Yeah.
And so for him to like do that across the board for everyone and to take the time, have your hand cramp up, whatever that might look like, was so special. So I love that. I think it's a really beautiful gesture.
Yeah.
I think it's really interesting that, principal, coach, all of that kind of stuff. And you think about how a lot of times a coach will give a gift to like graduating seniors and all of that. So it's like he took that whole idea and just was like, yep, every student I got, let me do this one little thing. And I think it's awesome. Like the article talks about, random acts of kindness, even as small as they might be, really do go a long way in just having a great send-off. I think about it'd be great to get a letter instead of sit in a hot 400-degree gym
in a robe and
a hat. Give me that letter, and that makes maybe that suffering worth it. I don't know, but I think it's really awesome. I love that, and also he has an incredible last name. Mutterer. Coach Mutt is awesome.
Coach Mutt is pretty epic.
Yeah,
right?
That's great.
No, for sure. I like the idea of thinking of this as an act of kindness and not just like that's nice or that's sweet. Andy Stanley has this great definition of kindness, that kindness is not just being nice, but kindness is letting someone borrow your strength instead of reminding them of their weakness. And it's meeting people where they are with something that you can only give. And his strength in this was his voice and his influence over them, and to literally like show them love with that voice, and a really significant turning point for them, I think is really beautiful. So I think it's a great challenge for all of us to be people that, not just have random acts of kindness, but make deposits of kindness throughout our days and our lives where they mean the most.
Yeah.
I'm sure he was an awesome principal.
I know,
outside of
right?
this.
Yeah,
if this is the thing that you do, then what were you like all the other ones? Because you got to be awesome.
And think too, because every school has like students that struggle, or the kids that are in the principal's office. Like for him to like write them a note to encourage them, like that just says so much about everybody. And he was a coach, so not the quarterback only, but the kids that were in the AV club, if they still have AV clubs. I feel like I'm an 80s child now when I said that. But like for everyone, I love that so much.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. So did you guys have a teacher that left a lasting impression on you?
Not like this. No, I had an English teacher my junior year who was really hard class. And she just challenged us. There were certain words when we write papers, we weren't allowed to use words that she thought were weak words. And so there's like this list of words you couldn't write with. And it was so challenging. And I complained so much during that class. And I got some kind of like B or B minus in the class. Did not do great in it. But I remember when I got to college, I could write. And I was there with other kids my same age coming from different schools, and they struggled to write papers or do blue book tests. And I remember this moment thinking like, Miss Sika, she did this to me. And I remember running into her at the BMV when I was in college, changing something with my license or something. And I got to tell her that, like, I'm telling you, you did this. Like, and I'm so grateful. And now I think about my life that I write every single week. Yeah. And it's because of those hard things. So that's a lasting impression on me, was Miss Sika, my junior year English teacher.
Okay.
I have several. I don't, kind of the similar thing. There isn't like one that maybe stands out, maybe even one that doesn't particularly have as much of a impact that Joel did. Like there isn't something that changed everything. But I had a handful of teachers that were just next level. They were just awesome. Some teachers I had through high school, like every year, like my Spanish teacher, she was incredible, and a few others. But nothing that sticks out in particular in my memory right now or thinking about this as I was looking at it, but just a huge thanks to every teacher. Selfishly, both my parents were teachers, so, big thanks to all that hard work and all the struggle and everything that you do, and how difficult the students can be sometimes, and how you don't necessarily have to go wild and write 400 and some thank yous, but just know that you are valued as well by all of us. Yeah. Abby?
Well,
What's your experience?
My teacher made me dinner every night, so that was pretty cool.
I guess you do have that for you, homeschool kid. Yeah. It's not too bad.
No, my mom's amazing. Like, she homeschooled me and my 8 siblings, and she is...
That's a graduating.
That's a whole school.
Oh my gosh.
She's the smartest woman I know. Like, she's incredible. Yeah. So our next question is, what's something small that recently made you happy? It doesn't have to be an act of kindness or anything like that, but what's something that, just made you smile recently? Have you guys never smiled?
Yeah, I don't smile. I don't know. I'm just a difficult smile. No, I mean, something small. I mean, I can think of a lot of like small gestures, but small in stature. My son makes me smile. Does that count? He's
Sure.
little. He's like almost 3 feet tall though, somehow. So
Does he say something specifically right now that you're just like, oh, that's so cute?
I mean, he says a lot of things.
I know, but like specifically, I'm thinking right now, one of the things that Thomas, like, because I was thinking about my kids too, Thomas, our 4-year-old right now, whenever Megan and I are talking, trying to have like 30 seconds of adult conversation, Thomas will jump into the conversation and goes, are you guys talking about aquariums? Like, out of pocket. Yeah. And I just like, it makes us smile so big because he loves animals in the sea animals and stuff. And so like the idea of like, are you guys talking about aquariums? Oh, it makes me smile so much. I love it.
Funny.
Leo says actually.
Oh,
like
that's
he's
so
correcting
cute.
us. So because I'll say something, he'll be like, "What's this thing?" And I'll say, "Well, actually, that's a whatever." And so I'll be saying something, and he'll go, "Actually."
Oh, I love it so much.
That doesn't really work here. But he also calls me dad. And only dad.
Not
so
you're outside of daddy.
or anything.
Dude, you're
like
weeks
that,
away
but
from bruh at this point.
I know. Or father. But yeah, so those
So
are
cute.
small things.
Yeah. Allison recently gave me a tomato plant, and my first tomato showed up yesterday.
Dude.
Yeah.
Wow.
That is amazing.
I'm really excited about
Look
that.
at your
I'm
green
gonna
thumb.
Yeah.
Yeah, look at that. That's amazing.
I was worried that it would start dying off soon because I was gone last week, but Lucas did a great job watering it last week. And then this week with the heat, I'm trying to keep it surviving.
That is amazing.
Yep. So really excited about that. Our next article is a Relevant Magazine article titled How to Talk About Your Faith with Friends Who Aren't Believers Without Making It Awkward.
Nice caveat at the end.
Yes. How do you talk about what matters most without making things weird? How do you answer tough questions about faith without sounding like you're reading from a rule book? Here's how to navigate those moments with intelligence, authenticity, and maybe even a little style. Be honest, not a billboard. Talking about faith doesn't mean launching into a monologue or reciting a script. If they're interested, they'll ask more. A simple, yeah, I believe in God, it shapes how I see the world, is often more compelling than a rehearsed elevator pitch. Timing is everything. Read the room. If you sense someone's genuinely curious, don't make it weird. This is what I believe and here's why it matters to me is usually enough. No need for a sermon, no need for a sales pitch, just a conversation between two humans. Let your life be the subtext. People notice how you live long before they care what you say. It's about being the same person in every room, whether you're leading a meeting or just listening to a friend vent about their boss. That kind of consistency is rare and it's magnetic. Ask more than you answer. You don't have to have all the answers. Jesus was a master of asking questions, sometimes answering a question with another question. When faith comes up, try asking your friends what they believe or what they've experienced. Embrace the mystery. Faith is mysterious. It's not always easy to explain, and that's okay. You don't have to tie everything up with a neat theological bow. Sometimes the most honest thing you can say is, I don't have all the answers, but here's what I've experienced. The bottom line is to invest in your relationships. Be unapologetically yourself. Don't underestimate the power of simply being present, honest, and excellent at what you do. So, I really love this article. Joel sent it to me. Do you find it hard to talk to friends who aren't believers about faith, and why or why not?
Yeah, it's really hard for me because people know what I do for a living. And so I think people come with an expectation that sometimes I'll message somebody to see if they want to hang out after they've been to church once or twice, or I'll run into someone in public and ask if they want to grab lunch sometime. And I can tell that their guard goes up so quickly because they're like, oh, Joel's going to try to convert me, or they automatically feel guilty. Or when I meet somebody and we're having a conversation, then somehow in the conversation it gets brought up what I do for a living as a pastor. Their language starts to change. They like apologize for words that they said earlier, or they like to say like, well, I go to that church when I go to church, and like make people feel like, don't try to get me or whatever. So, yeah, it's really challenging, but I love this article so much because it reminds me that we have an opportunity to flip the script in a lot of ways of what people expect it to be like, and just being authentically who you are, and to know that this is a guiding thing in your life, and to be who you are, and that's someone who loves God and wants to live their life in this way, doesn't mean that you have to wag a finger at them, or you're there to make them feel guilty or ashamed about anything. And so it's really challenging to do it. I do have a heart for people that are far from God, and so I relish these opportunities to talk to them. I always say, like, two of my favorite artists, Bono, the lead singer of U2, is a Christian, and then my other one is Dave Matthews, who's an atheist. And Dave sings about it a lot in his music, and I'm always like, man, I would love to sit down and have a beer with him, because I'm telling you, I would show him that the God that he doesn't believe in, I don't believe in either. You know, that kind of a thing. Yeah. I love that kind of stuff. So this idea of like asking questions and understanding, embracing the mystery of faith, and I just so driven towards it, and I love this conversation, even though it's hard to talk to people about.
Yeah,
I don't know if it was Joel that said this one time. I mean, I think I've heard him say it, or where he may have gotten it, but or maybe even where I got it. I don't know. But I say it all the time. Like, I want people to wonder, like, what's wrong with me, and not because I'm doing some weird chant around the fire or acting strange in public, but I want people to just see a person that's got joy, that feels the love of Jesus, that cares for other people. I want to care for people in a way that makes other people go, what's going on with that guy or that family that is different. Mm-hmm. And if that's a foot in the door to eventually have a conversation about Jesus, that's great. But I think Abby read, the summary of the article, and I think it summed it up really well. But it's all about that relationship. It is forming that relationship with someone. And yes, people in our line of work, collectively sitting at the table, as soon as you say that you work at a church or a pastor or anything like that, it changes the way that people interact with you. Sometimes I don't lie, but sometimes I navigate the question of what I do for work, just because I don't want people to feel any kind of way. I want to build a relationship or build a conversation that doesn't feel like they have to be, disingenuous to who they are. But yeah, Joel's right. It's about being genuinely who we are in our skin and forming relationships and caring and loving for that person sitting across from the table, sitting next to you, that you drive by in another car, whatever it is, just caring for people first. And then eventually they'll want to know, like, why do you care for me? Or what is interesting about you?
Yeah, I think too, like, the idea of, like, I think it could be dangerous for us to, like, be like, well, like, you've just got to love them and serve them, and then that's when the magic will happen. And I think that, like, treats people like projects, not people. You know what I mean? And so I'm always, like, wary of that, to be like, no, like, the work is in loving and serving and connecting with and being yourself. Like, we don't do these things so that we can get you with the Jesus when you're least expecting it. But, like, that's actually the work, and it's going to naturally come up from time to time as you're walking with someone who's they experience a huge tragedy or a life event that they weren't planning on, like a loss of a job, a loss of a family member, a divorce. Like, you have an opportunity there to, like, encourage them. And in my whole life, I've never said, hey man, can I pray for you? And someone's been like, no, but like that open door, because when things are not going well and when life throws you a curveball, you can be there to love them. But then also, not just to love them, but to, like, ask questions and not throw platitudes at them. One of the things I love about this article is it talks about embracing the mystery, like having the freedom to say, I don't know. The older I get, like, I don't know is a completely valid theological answer to many questions, because I don't know a lot more than I know. Yeah. And I think when people hear that, it disarms them, but it's real too, because we don't know. We might think, but we don't know. And so we want to not throw a platitude. Well, God doesn't give you more than you can handle, or God works all things for good. Like, true, but not helpful right now. To say, I don't know, and just be with them in it. That's the good work, and not to treat people like projects, but to treat people like people and love them no matter what. And I think the more that we can be ourselves and love and serve and bless and be there in the hard times for people, who knows what God might do. But even if they don't cross a line of faith, the work that we're called to do is to be these types of people in the world.
Yeah,
and I love that.
I mean, our relationship with Jesus is just that. It's a relationship, and the thought that we're somehow put here on earth not to build a relationship, but to just check more boxes of people that we'll see in heaven someday. Like, no, Jesus wants that same thing for all of us. That's to build relationships with people everywhere, no matter what. And you know what? I mean, maybe that conversation never happens, but you're probably a better person because you formed a relationship with this person. Maybe they're a better person because they learned something from you, or you broadened your horizon because you learned something new from them and who they were. And then maybe somewhere down the line, they have that conversation with someone else. But it's not tallies on my jet plane, or jewels in my crown. It's relationships that I get to have here right now.
And I think another thing in the article that I loved was it wasn't just about, wedging Jesus into conversations, but it was one of the things that is talked about in the article is to let your life be the subtext. People notice how you live long before they care what you say. You know, that idea of like how we treat the waiter, the waitress, the barista, anybody that is checking us out in a store, at the cash register, like that stuff matters. And we've got to be the same kind of people, whether we're on a stage on Sunday morning or singing by a seat on Sunday morning. Like being that same kind of person, no matter what, that matters so much more than you having this elevator pitch for why you should choose Jesus for your savior. You know what I mean? And I think that's another great reminder is like, we show people our faith more than we talk to people about our faith. How we react when things go bad, it shows them who we're really trusting and what we're really trusting. How we react when things are inconveniencing for us really matters a lot too. So I think that's just another reminder too of like, don't just tell me, show me. And if we are people that show people who we're putting our trust in and our faith in, it makes a much bigger difference than if you would die tonight, where would you spend eternity? You know what I mean?
Yeah, I'm trying to figure out where the Romans Road pamphlet comes in.
That's good. That's good. And we have offended so many people now, but I'm right there with you.
Also, if you want to hear a great song about probably not how to do it, listen to David Phelps' End of the Beginning.
We got to put it in the show notes.
Yeah.
Sitting on a plane the other day.
Yeah, just a wishing that I could get out. That's a song that I think I meme all the time because it just makes me laugh.
Yeah, it's much less sales.
Yeah.
And it's much more like life and friendship.
Yeah.
And I think I just think we get to dark places when we start thinking about sales pitch and we start thinking about I need to get them to cross this line. I need to get them to sign up.
Yep.
Man, Jesus doesn't come into the world like that, and we shouldn't go out into the world that way either.
Well, that's it for this episode of Atypical Talk. If you have any topics you'd like us to talk about or questions, you can email those to atypicaltalkpod@gmail.com. You can follow us on Instagram, Facebook, and TikTok at atypicaltalkpod. Make sure to subscribe on your favorite podcast platform to get updates when new episodes go live. We hope that these conversations today have helped you think wider, love deeper, and partner with God to bring the up there down here in your everyday life. Thanks for listening.